Social revolution which has happened because of technology has actually changed the paradigm. But it hasn't rendered everything else redundant, and that's why that also will spring back. As soon as the physical spaces and the tangible art forms realize that there is always an opportunity to augment them using the technology, so that there is a middle language that is created. And that middle ground will definitely, attempt to bridge the gap that has suddenly become very visible. For instance, a programmer can also become an artist. He's an artist. If he can visualize something using codes, then for the general public, it's a program. It's not an art form. How do we bring it to the people to show that, of course, it is at the back end, it is a code running, but in the front end, what you see is completely phenomenal, completely different. It's unexpected. Light designers, interactive designers, all of these people, they work like all your mobile phones have interactive screens. You have become accustomed to interactive screens. Now, how do we integrate art into the interaction? Combine the two so that there is a tactile experience also, and there is a secondary experience also. How do we combine all of these together? So that the new generation, which is very, very fast, very, very quick in adapting to newer technologies, can also appreciate the existing and previously available material. Because everything that is being built right now is being built on the vision of the artists who have created a lot of stuff. As they always say, no art is original. It's always inspired. Now, where do we inspire people? How do we inspire people to consume the art using technology and still see that art retains its sanctity? That's what we are trying to do. Most of the miniature paintings, for instance, most of the miniature paintings are so small, then it becomes very difficult for multiple people to spend that much time and appreciate its beauty, right? But when I see a projector which can allow me to project a huge image of the same painting, so while I can retain the sanctity of painting, I am not changing the painting at all. But the technology is now enabling me that I can allow people to experience it in far greater detail, while I am not manipulating it in any way. And if I want to actually manipulate it also, if I find that there is a tool which allows me to manipulate it in a subtle way so that its original essence doesn't get diluted, then I'll be very excited. So in both the cases, you will see that I'm only using the technology as a medium. It is not a source of inspiration for me, because in our experience, like when we create something, we always say, if you can see the technology, then you have missed the point. Technology needs to be invisible. Experience needs to take precedence. Anything that can excite people into it pulls them into an emotional journey. So anything that can pull them into an emotional journey is art, and technology is now enabling it so much that people are constantly consuming a lot of such content which is completely technology enabled and technology facilitated. So I had to find a balance between, interjunction between where the traditional art meets the technology, so that the canvas can expand far, far bigger than, a physical canvas. My effort to put the experiencer very close to the experience itself, that gives me an upper edge that gives me more possibilities of exploration, more possibilities that I can I can find out. And that goes true for all the other things that we have been working on. So when we are doing VFX for feature films, there also we understand that okay, whatever we are creating as CG, suppose it needs to maintain its CG-ness, even then there is an inherent appreciation that people will have to, people will find in it. So there are multitude of ways in which even the video is treated to give it a look. Now that look is given not because the technology can do it, but because technology will enable that same video to be expressed far more intensely than otherwise. Similarly, when we are doing projection mapping, we realize that this is the only time when the structure over which you are projecting, the structure becomes part of your story. So anything that you want to say, you have got one more character which is already there in front of you. And how do you translate your idea into a narrative which the character can take forward? When we look at interactive installations, we see, okay, what are the things that people will intuitively want to do and what will they expect? And then we design something which is completely unexpected. And that creates another layer of experience over it. Because otherwise, in the regular dimension, it will not be possible. So I'm saying that I don't consider myself to be any different than a painter, but definitely I focus more on how can I augment the user journey through technology. Painter is doing just the same thing. Most of the big shows that we have done, we have always remained collaborators. We never were, just execution artists. And working with fashion designers actually is very, very pleasant experience, because they also believe in experimentation. And that's exactly what the new media allows you to do. Because new media, as we call it now, because new media includes all the technology-driven newer ways of expression, which includes internet, which includes augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, projection, whatever. So each and every scenario will give you various opportunities. It's not like when you are projecting, say suppose we collaborated with Amit. We have already collaborated with other people also. I have collaborated with Rimzim Dadu also in her opening show. In most cases, as soon as you define that this is going to be your canvas, suddenly the story begins to evolve. That evolution cannot be a one-sided affair. It needs to definitely have conversations. And because we know that there are 3 layers to what we do. The 3 layers are, first, the narrative itself. The other thing is what technology can enable. And third thing is, what is it that we can do and what we cannot do. It was such a brilliant experience for me that even Rohit did not see what I am going to project, previous night of the show. And on that night, when we both know that there is no change possible, we were discussing, okay, what does look good and how do we bring this together? Okay, this looks something different. This looks okay. This looks fabulous. And we were just deciding and fixing whatever we needed to fix over there. But it was very, very limited, because the overall idea was that, okay, I have a certain vision for what I am going to present. Now I allow you to have your vision, go there, and let's see how beautifully we merge 2 ideas together. And I believe this is by far the most freedom you will ever get in projects like these. If you look at even the life cycle of all the art movements that have happened, you will realize that all of those have had their peaks. And it doesn't mean that they came down as zero, they continue to remain, but because art always strives to evolve, even this is part of the evolution. Now, one thing we definitely need to address and understand is that technology and especially the content that is being consumed using technology, it has become so so available to people, easily available to people, that their consumption pattern has changed. And because consumption pattern changes, your reaction to any stimuli will also change. So the triggers that were working absolutely fine 10 years ago are not as effective right now, because people's expectations have changed. Their attention span has changed. Now you will see that there is less and less footfall in the museums, because for people to see an artwork on a screen, they believe it's just the same as seeing it in a museum, which is not true. In Mumbai, in one of the busy intersections, they installed a device which could actually read the level of audio, level of honking, sound level of the honking that was being generated over there. And if the honking level reached a certain peak, then the red light would reset for another 1 minute. Now, see, it is very artistic. If you look at it, it's very, very creative, the idea. And the execution also is very creative. But because of its practicality, it is not considered to be an art. So I always try to find that people need to also see a lot of other things as art, not just the art traditionally that has always been shown as art traditionally. One should always consider that, okay, if I am using a reservation kiosk, how beautifully it is created. That also, and that will happen only when you create platforms where you can tell people what goes behind the scenes to create something which you use for a fraction of a second. So public spaces also not just erecting statues, they also need to erect responsive installations where people can join together. Like we created one very interesting installation last Christmas in Garden of Five Senses. Now that Christmas tree was traditional Christmas tree, but it was rigged with lights, and all of those were programmable lights. And the trick was, because Christmas is the moment where people have to come together to celebrate. There were 4 spots which were sensor rigged. And if you stand on one spot, you only see one small celebration of light and music. But if there are 4 people who are standing on 4 spots, then the entire thing goes completely berserk and you see a riot of color, light, music and everything. We wanted people to know that it's a collective experience. When you come together, the experience gets bigger and becomes stronger manifold. And people enjoyed it. They were literally, one person, he will bring another person. Okay, at least I'm just one person, but if I have 2 people standing, then it becomes slightly more augmented. So these kind of experience need to be available to people on a regular basis. Just like you create a public gymnasium, you also have to create such spaces for people to become comfortable with these things, so they don't become intimidating for you. Because in India, it is awkwardness, social awkwardness to interact with anything which they don't immediately understand. We need to break that also. Technology needs to become much more simpler for people, and that's when art and the new media art per se will become more and more accepted form of art. The latest film that we did was Mara in Tamil. It is available on Amazon Prime. It is R. Madhavan is in the leading role. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Very, very interesting. So, and the director was very good friend of mine. I mean, he has become very good friend of mine now. And when the storytelling started, then we started visualizing things together. And that's when even we thought that, okay, what if the core of the film is that this girl who is in search of the elusive painter tracks him by looking at the paintings which has painted across the town, but she realizes that that complete painting can be seen only from one spot. So she continues to follow those fragments and reaches the spot where he lives, reaches the room where he lives, and then she sees the entire painting. So when we started looking out, we scouted Pondicherry, we couldn't find the right place. Then director said that we can shoot it in Ooty. We went there, we couldn't find a place. Then in Fort Kochi, we actually found a place where we could shoot the room location, but outside view was not very good. And we realized that outside view may not be good enough for us to create the final frame, where the story comes together. So we had to remove all of it and completely create everything in CG. And of course, using references from the existing location, but we changed the location completely. And when we finally created it, the DOP himself thought that it was augmentation on the shot plate. When we said that no, this is shot plate has also been converted into CG and the entire frame is completely CG, he also couldn't believe it. And that was high point for all the artists who had been working, because that's where you excel. That's what you say that, okay, CGI is supposed to be invisible. And we were able to do that. And there are other places in the film where we had various interventions, VFX interventions, that came up only after the shooting was done, and we realized that there are things that we need to tackle. There were plates which needed to be cleaned out. There were people who needed to be erased off. Those, and then augmentations. Okay, there is a place. Now, the place itself is good enough for the story, but if we add something more to it, then suddenly the story takes a completely new, a new expression. So we tried that also, and we realized that even VFX is an extremely creative process. It is not a complete, scope of work where you go ahead and you finish this and the film is done. No, it continues to evolve, and that evolution itself is almost like creating an art piece where you are putting each and every pixel together in whatever way possible.